Harriet. Welcome to the Women Awaken podcast.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Very happy to have you here. Harriet, you do some really incredible work that is very much aligned with a lot of the concepts behind this podcast of Women Awaken. The idea of tapping into our soul's calling, our soul's purpose, and really kind of finding ways to find the work within us to help heal humanity.
Yes, when I started my business, it was focused on self-care. And in that process, I realized there were a lot of women who are frustrated and stressed out about their work environment or their work conditions. They're underutilized, underpaid, and because they're not doing what they really want to do. And so I started working with women around soul's calling, which basically means who you are born to be, what you are born to do, and working with them to identify their talents, their skills, those things that we tend to do on the side that are fun, but are really our passion, our creativity. And so as I supported and guided women to step into their true passion, their true purpose, who they were born to be, what they're born to do, then there's a whole energy shift. It's like, she's juiced because she's doing what she came here to do. And when you're around people who are sharing their talent, who are really in their zone, so to speak, in their essence, there is a magnetic kind of energy that happens, and they provide the best service. They share their talents in ways that uplift, empower, and heal others. And so that's what soul's calling. It's being in your true essence, sharing your gifts and talents in ways that empower and heal others.
Thank you so much for that. And Harriet, what would you say to your concept and ideas around, you said that our soul's calling is when we really fulfill our work here, our purpose, what our soul wants. What is that about? Do you think that we come into this world because our soul desires something? Do you think that we have a plan in place when we arrive, when sometimes people say that when you start to have a lot of synchronicities, it means that you're on your soul's path, that you're sort of aligning with what you set out as a soul to do on the physical realm?
Now, I appreciate what you're saying because, I like to say, well, the creator has a master plan. And Coltrane played that song, the creator has a master plan. And sometimes we come into this world and we've forgotten, we don't remember, and we must be reminded that we are here for a reason, a purpose. And when we rediscover that purpose, that passion, we're being and doing our soul's calling. We're being and doing what it is we came here to do. And there are those who believe in past lives, there are those who believe in coming back again and again. And I feel like when we come and get it right, in the sense of our true essence, our soul's calling, our true passion and purpose, we are aligned with the master plan, or we are aligned with the creator's plan. We are in our zone, and it's almost magical. It is, that kind of energy is magical, and you attract, you manifest, you soar. and with others. I mean, it's like the geese, when the geese are flying in a particular direction and they're going together, and if the leader falls, back or down, there are those who accompany it and someone else takes the lead, but they are very purposeful about moving in a particular direction, and they move together. And that's what we have to do, as I believe, in terms of the kinds of shifts that that we want to happen, because Mother Earth and Mother Nature are going to be here. The question is to what extent humanity is going to be here. And so if we're talking about change, if we're talking about the kinds of shifts that will liberate all of us, then it means certain behaviors must shift. And so, working collectively, collaboratively, to me, is the way to move forward.
Absolutely. And would you say, Harriet, that some of the things you're describing, which is coming together, really uniting and connecting with our true purpose, working in community and collaboration, to me, those seem like feminine principles, in that when I think of the feminine versus masculine energies, I think of the feminine as that which remembers our true essence, and the masculine is that which honors the essence so it may create, because life is all about creation, right? Source is the ultimate creator, but we are all aspects of source that are meant to create. And what I'm hearing you say is that when we align with our true purpose, we create to the highest level for the highest good. And when we all unite together with our soul's work, we create a whole world that's leveled up for the highest good of all beings. Yet we can't get there unless we discover that. So would you say that this work is focused on the feminine? And you speak to a new paradigm of feminine presence. So I'm wondering if that sort of relates to, feminine really leading the way of tapping in so then we can take off and soar. Because, and I think masculine is kind of like that soaring. Once we're in our element, we're creating, we're in the more productive mode, but with that divine soul purpose.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. I like to say divine feminine and sacred masculine, and natural or innate feminine qualities are tending, nurturing, birthing. And it is those qualities, tending, nurturing, cultivating, those for me are feminine. That's who we naturally are. And and that's, I believe, those are the qualities I believe that will move us forward. But as I said, I say the divine feminine and the sacred masculine, because it's together. I tend to work with mature spiritual women, and what I've recognized is that younger women in their 30s and 40s know more than technology. In fact, they have a greater vested interest in the future, because in the indigenous cultures, we say 7 generations. So I may be long gone and they are still coming forward. So when you say together and I say together, I say it with women who are mature, who are elders, and women who are younger, because I think together we pull the skills, the talents, the gifts together to move forward. And there is room for the sacred masculine. There is room for men who can honor, if you will, the goddess or the feminine, and recognize that together we can move forward in alignment, in attunement, both contributing to the transformation. We are absolutely in a paradigm shift. And when I think of the birth canal, we're being rebirthed into a whole different reality that we have the opportunity to co-create together. And so what is that going to be? We can say peace, we can say justice, balance, harmony, truth. how do we get there together?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And how do you see that happening? Or how do you think it will take 7 generations? Because I think of this often as, is it going to be in the near future? Is it in, way generations down the line?
I have no idea when it is happening. I look for evidence now that it is happening. And when we have these kinds of dialogues, when the patriarchy who wants to maintain the status quo, things are falling apart for a reason. So how do we put it back together? Or is it something that we want to put back together? Or is it something we want to create anew? And so I say the term 7 generations because, I'll be with my ancestors when younger women and men are taking the baton, so to speak, and co-creating in a way that works for not only for them, but works for Mother Earth and Mother Nature. It really, I like to say healing people and the planet, because, this is where we are. We're not on Pluto, we're not on Mars, we're on Mother Earth. And so, that nurturing, that tending, that cultivating, and yes, you talked about the producing, all of those qualities are important, but how do we utilize them together with a shared vision of the world we want to co-create?
Yes, because at this time, it doesn't feel that there is a shared vision amongst humanity. There was a quote I heard that I really liked that said, "We figured out how to do everything except how to live." And it's
In
sort of like
peace.
what's that?
To live in peace.
Yeah, to live in peace and harmony. We figured out how to get really powerful, really wealthy, successful, how to create a lot of stuff, how to innovate, how to expand tech skills. Yet, how can you do it? That's like trying to have, a tree grow 50 feet tall, but no root structure, which is gonna, no connection to the earth, to the ground, to its source for life. And it's a crazy notion, yet it's the notion that we've created our world around.
Well, and I appreciate what you're saying because, create for what? What create for what? And I think that it is a question. I believe that it's important to have dialogue, but I also believe the creative process, like artwork, like dance, like theater, that those creative processes are one way to get to those answers and to develop strategies or actions. And it's I a devotee of Baba Muktananda, and his spiritual autobiography was Play of Consciousness, and all we're living in is a play of consciousness. And so we get to play and we get to co-create, and maybe we discover something that we never knew, or we create something that has never been created before, and voila, it works. It works in a way that sustains us, that empowers us, that uplifts us, and enables us to live together in peace with justice.
Yes, beautifully, beautifully said. And you spoke to the idea of, what are we doing? Are we trying to rebuild the current structure? Are we trying to create something totally new? And my thought is that we're creating something new. And
Absolutely.
and it's not by means of destroying what is, it's just by means of creating something else that if you are so called to, that you move towards that. And I think that, humanity, once we do create a more harmonious, conscientious way of living, we're going to naturally gravitate towards that, because then we recognize that our focus has been so much about the material gain and the void of a soul, but the soul is all there is. So it's kind of a very strange way that we live, where we deny the one true thing of life and focus on everything else that's ephemeral and not real. So I think when we are able to tap into that, because there's no greater joy or fulfillment than when you truly are aligned with your soul's purpose. As you said, that flying sensation. And we all kind of spend most of our lives feeling so like a bird who can't fly. That's like, and because I think we all kind of have that feeling of, I think I was meant for something more. I think there's something I really would like to do that's like wanting to come through, but I'm too busy with focus on paying my bills or finding the partner and getting the house and doing all these things that when you die doesn't matter. And it's not what we necessarily came here for. All those things are avenues for experiencing our soul, but we don't really look at it that way. We just fixate on the achievement rather than the experience right now.
No, it's I absolutely agree, and it's the experience that is the teacher.
It's what matters most. So what would you tell people, Harriet, who maybe they have this inkling, this, okay, I think I have this job, it pays the bills. I want to find the right relationship. I want to do this and that, but they seem to keep feeling a lack. They don't seem to be aligning with meaningful work or relationships. Or also maybe they have these ideas about the soul or more meaningful, harmonious life, but for a lot of people, that can be hard to speak to, because another strange thing about our world is we mock the idea of love so often. We mock the idea of peace and joy as sort of this, idealistic idea that's not, the reality is that life is tough and we just have to survive. Very masculine concepts, right? And so I think that a lot of us, particularly women, are still kind of nervous or reluctant to speak to these things, to move, to gravitate towards that new way, that new structure that people like you and I are trying to build.
And I mean, I have a lot of confidence and faith in, and I do see women of consciousness, women of depth, women of vision. I'm involved with something called How Women Lead, and I was an advisor to Amy Allison, who formed the organization She the People, and she and her organization were responsible for getting a lot of women elected at the local level and at the national level. And so change can be slow, and it takes two. I do believe that there are women with vision, and they're in corporations, they may be in politics, and alone they can't do it, but together. And it's all, the classic, you're in a meeting, the woman says something and she's ignored, and the man says the same thing, and all of a sudden it's heard and cheered on. These are things that we're breaking through, or women are breaking through. And I do see younger women, particularly after COVID, that was the biggest corporate women in corporation leaving, because they took responsibility for their children at home who couldn't be at school. And many of them are not going back to that. I remember watching a Zoom thing where this woman, she was a manager, and she says, no meetings on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays I take my mother to the doctor. There are things, I have responsibilities in this office, and I have responsibilities at home. And so a lot of women made big shifts in how they were going to generate an income through their work, whether it was in a corporate or nonprofit or whatever kind of environment. There needed to be some flexibility, which forced some men to have to rethink their roles at home and at the job. And, I feel like we are in the process of co-creating some different ways of showing up, not only for one another, but showing up for our colleagues, showing up for community members. It's going to take time, but again, I believe in our creativity as one answer for the paradigm shift and for shifting in a way that brings everyone on board. It means looking at what do we really value? What is really most important? And people will tell you, no, it's not this job. It is, it is skiing with friends on what's most important is my time in nature. What is most important is being with my grandchildren. Those are the people are, what do you value that you recognize or say, I don't want to be in life without this. I want a life of more of this. So it is a shift in values, what's most important, and where do I want to see myself 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What do I want for my children and grandchildren? How can I create, what is the legacy I want to leave that enables them to be free, that enables them to be joyful, that enables them to flourish in whatever they decide to be and do.
Yes. Thank you so much. And then I know that this ties into what you're just saying, but Harriet, for again, those out there, what are some tangible tips? Because I know you work with people to transform from limitations to liberation, which is what we've been talking about, right? Is this idea of feeling kind of encapsulated by the norm, by societal standards, and then moving into a place of opening to our soul, to our essence, to the things that will bring us closer to everything you just spoke of a world that's more aligned with our values, but then also answering the question of what are your values and how do I stay aligned with them in my actions, in my words, in my thoughts, right? So when people are moving from that, and because I imagine it's not just about, it's how we express ourselves in the world. It's also how we show up in our work, but also in our relationships. That's a big focus of this show, is getting the relationships we want in life, because another big part of our soul's experience is being in relation to other beings. That's how we have some of our deepest, most growth oriented experiences. So can you share maybe some steps to take to move from limitation in, again, how we express ourselves in work, but also in the relationships that we have if they don't feel fulfilling?
I'm really smiling because, of course, there's a statement, and it's probably an updated statement, but when I was growing up, no man is an island, no man stands alone. And there's something comparable to that now. I don't know what it is, but the point is that we do live in relationship to others. And who am I choosing to be? Am I the co-leader? Am I the one who takes the trash out? Am I the one who puts those ideas into writing or into a program or into how we're going to manage this house or manage this office or be fulfilled? What does it mean? And so if I'm working with someone, I'm really looking at, again, the values. What is it that is your turn on? What makes you happy? What is it that you're doing that keeps you energized, positive, engaged? What are those things? And there are certain people who are very active in their church. They sing in the choir, they're ushers, da 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 da. There are other people who they hang out at the gym and they develop relationships with other people at the gym. So, or at the senior center. So I really believe that it is about knowing your values, interacting, engaging with people who share those values, who share the vision, and really working with people around the vision. I will say to people, what is your vision for your life? Listen with an open heart and let them go under the surface. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And when you get beneath the go into that level of consciousness, all kinds of things come up and out that, were not up here, because they come from the heart, they come from the soul. And that's a way to begin looking at what are the shifts that are important for me to make, so that I'm in this zone. So I am free, I am fulfilled, I am happy, I am engaged, I'm making a contribution, and others are making it with me. We are co-creating the world we want. And I think that takes elders. I think it takes young people. It takes you'd be, I mean, I shouldn't say you'd be amazed, but I am amazed at young people, teens, with the kind of talent and vision and I'm saying, when they go to college, they move, professor, let that little one stand up in front of the classroom, because she's got it going on in terms of her vision, her energy, her talent. And so again, I think it is about a collective vision, but we can get to that by going beneath the consciousness. And there is a term called visioning, and I do that with a number of people that I work with, because it gets to the heart and soul of what is stirring and what wants to come up and out.
Could you describe
It's
visioning?
like knocking on a door and then somebody comes, you open the door and wow, there's a wonderland in there.
Is that a little exercise you could share with us? Like if someone wanted to practice, because visioning is powerful, right? Again, whether you're trying to visualize how it feels as you're talking to, how does it feel? What is it like to be with the person, your soulmate, the person you'd love to be with? How does it feel to be in your essence with the work that you do, feeling empowered and feeling strong in your voice, in yourself? Do you have a little guidance?
Well, I have a form and a format that I use. I don't have it in front of me, but I was sharing one of the key questions, because it's like, what is it that you want to embrace? What must you release? How does it look? How does it feel? Who will you be when this is, when this vision is achieved? And what does it mean? What does it look like beyond your household? What does it look like in your neighborhood or in your country? And it takes time to really sink into what is being asked. And it's amazing. So if you want to focus on the prompt of give me a prompt. What do you want to figure out? What is it that you're coming disturbed about or concerned about?
The specific work that I'm meant to do, whether it's speaking or writing or leading, I still am unclear on that.
Okay, so in this process, I'm going to ask you a question. We're not going to go through the whole process, but I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to be quiet. And if you want to write your answer or move your answer or share your answer verbally, you can do that. But I'm going to ask the question, and you are focusing on your work in the world, essentially. So what is it that you must embrace for this vision to manifest? What are you to embrace for this vision to manifest?
I would guess my soul's calling or my soul gifts.
What must you release for this vision of soul gifts to be realized? What must you release?
Attachment to what other people might expect or think or say about it.
Okay. And what does this vision look like, sound like, feel like? What does this vision look like, sound like, feel like? And in this, you might draw, what does it sound like, look like, feel like?
Yeah.
Listen with an open heart.
Yeah. That's a powerful exercise. I think that will be very valuable for a lot of people to take time to consider that.
Well, it is. It came from Michael Bernard Beckwith, the visioning process, and we use it. I use it with clients, and we use it in organizations. We use it in a lot of situations where we want to move from where we are to somewhere else, but we don't know where else. When I was thinking about, well, this whole elderhood piece, I did visioning. I went to our women's empowerment circle and, invited people to do visioning about it. And ultimately, it has come into something that we can do, but it's getting beneath the intellect and going to the heart and soul for the responses to come from that place. And people are usually pleasantly surprised because you're going beneath the surface, you're going beneath the intellect.
Yeah. And then you mentioned your work with revering elders, which is a big focus, which I love because I think that's also a turning of the tides that I believe is coming, is returning back to the idea that elders are the keepers of wisdom.
Mhm.
They're the ones that can really help and offer guidance for those who are beginning their journey in this life.
Mhm.
However, as of now, we tend to, not only not revere our elders always, but fear getting older. We sort of have, ageism is very real, and it's such a strong concept that, there's this real, clock ticking about, you better get your life figured out and enjoy it while you can, because once you hit this age, you're irrelevant, you're over the hill, just go sit back and do your thing. Not the truth that I believe, but it's often the common concept. And what's so crazy about that to me is that everybody ages and gets old. Everybody's getting older every single day, but we act as if it's this thing that only like some people do and some people can avoid it. And rather than, again, revel in it as you inspire people to do and celebrate it and say, thank goodness we're getting older and wiser. And then we deserve, later in life to be able to be in a place of peace and comfort and be respected and be seen for our value.
Thank you for saying it in that way, because I was thinking about how, we're so focused on youth and how many face jobs people get and how many butt jobs and all this kind of stuff because of an attitude about aging. And of course, in indigenous cultures, the elders are revered and celebrated. If you've grown up with grandparents or great grandparents, they are the keepers of the wisdom. And an elder is someone who's absolutely earned the respect of their community through their wisdom, through their teachings, and they have authority by virtue of their age and life experience. Sometimes they're called matriarchs or patriarchs. In this country, we're called senior citizens. And at 65, we get a card from ARP. And then we get a whole bunch of senior discounts. And I'm not knocking any of the senior discounts because I always ask for them. And no, I do, and if we get preferred seating on the bus, or, so there are certain benefits that this country has offered seniors. There are senior centers. And it was very interesting because I was very active in the downtown Oakland Senior Center, and I did yoga, I did aerobics, various activities. And during COVID, people could, for many of the seniors, that's how they got out of their house and had some kind of social life. And so not having that, I mean, not everyone was into Zoom, even though a bunch of people learned how to do Zoom. It wasn't the same as coming and catching up with, your friend from this class and, playing cards or just watching TV together. And I realized how many of the seniors perished without that connection, because you couldn't see your grandchildren, and a lot learned how to use Siri. They learned how to use a cell phone and Siri just so they could maintain some kind of connection with their grandchildren. And what I know in indigenous cultures, the adolescents, the boys have to go and do something, and the girls have to go and do something. In the Jewish culture, you have the bar mitzvah and the bat mitzvah for adolescents. But what do we have to honor elders in this culture? And it is a concern because, of course, we are teachers. We are wisdom keepers and we are teachers. And one of the things that one of my teachers, and he's an ancestor, Malidoma Some, he says, it is the purpose or the role of the grandparent to remind the grandchild of its purpose. Because of course, when we're born, we do have a purpose. We may not know it or remember it. And so it is the role of the grandparent to remind the grandchild of its purpose. And when I learned that, you see how special these relationships are between grandchildren and grandparents. And my son his granddad was his primary role model, and granddad was at every athletic event for my son. And the other team members, they would just say, hi granddad, because he was like a fixture. But that relationship was so vital. When my father passed, many of those young men were active pallbearers. When my son got his, we celebrated his master's degree, and he said something granddad, and then he paused, and then he was able to continue because that relationship with his grandfather was so essential, so important. And I know that this is true for other families. And it just, again, when Malidoma made this statement, it really helped me realize why that relationship between grandchildren and grandparents is so important. And so again, it becomes, how do we celebrate or revere those who've had some life experience that maybe you could learn something from. I think, because I didn't, my grandparents were deceased when I grew up, but I know that my parents came through the Depression, and that had an impact, World War II, that's had an impact on their values and how they live. And then we went through Vietnam, and we have some attitudes about that. And so when we come with history, when we come with experience that's invaluable for young people now, and when we as elders can listen to the challenges, the concerns, the the challenges and concerns of young people, we have something that we can offer from our life experience. And there can be an exchange. When I was living in Oakland, there were 3 or 4 senior facilities on this street, and there was a school, and the school children would go to the senior place, and they would read and interact with the seniors. And then, of course, they would bring dogs in to interact, because people have relationships with their animals. They bring the dogs into the senior center, and we know that horses have special people do stuff with horses. But all of this has to do with human contact, communication, and the value that comes from old and young sitting together, learning together, doing art together, however you want to do it. It's an invaluable and enriching experience for all involved.
It really is. And I can't wait until there's more of that in our society, in our culture, that there is
Well, we
that.
can play a role in that. We don't have to wait. We can initiate those things, quite honestly, because again, COVID has made a major shift in the world. And even though people might say it's over, the impact of it is not over. And so I think, restoring relationships, building relationships, is really very, very important to our current, to our now, and to our future. And what kind of future are we co-creating?
Yes. Beautifully said. Such an important sentiment to take a lot of time to think on and to consider on a daily basis, on a moment to moment basis, in how we're living our lives and conducting ourselves. So
Well, talk to your neighbor. Or, I mean, we all have situations where we're interacting with other people, people that we know, and maybe sometimes people that we don't know. And sometimes it just takes a little initiative or willingness to take a risk and find out, oh, wow, this person likes the same thing I like, or here's somebody I can go to the theater with, or because we know that everybody needs somebody.
it's true. It's true. And now, Harriet, another question I'd love to ask is, your full name is Harriet Tubman Wright. So how does this name inform your work? How were you inspired to take this name?
My birth name is Harriet Yvonne Wright. When I would be at any occasion and I say, well, what is your name? And I would say Harriet, like Tubman. Otherwise, people would say, hi, Helen. Hi, Hazel. Hi, Henrietta. But if I said Harriet like Tubman, they would remember. And so at a certain point, I was working for the city of Oakland, and in a number of different positions, and something happened that I didn't agree with. And I said, you know what, I'm sending my retirement papers in this time for real. And so when I formally retired, because I was doing my business on the side anyway. But when I formally retired, I took on the business name of Harriet Tubman Wright because I had left the plantation. So that is why I go by Harriet Tubman Wright as my business name. And of course, I value freedom. I call myself your guide to be fulfilled and free. And this notion of inspiring women from limitation to liberation. I used to talk a lot about Harriet Tubman, and we know that she traveled at night and she traveled with this rifle. And she sometimes, because she was hit when she was young, she would, fall out at times and just, she would pass out. And so she knew a lot about nature. She had learned from her father. So the way the bark on the tree would tell her what direction, because of course they always traveled at night. And, some people were traveling with their babies. So she had a particular herb that she would put on so the baby wouldn't make noise. And if anybody thought they wanted to go back, she had that rifle and she would say, you're gonna be free up north, or you're gonna be free right now, but you're not going back. So she was, of course the movie was made and there were some embellishments in with the movie, but the point is she kept her eye on that North Star. And the North Star was her journey, her destination. And in the same way, when we're trying to determine what it is we want to do in life or how we want to be, there's a North Star that is our guide. I can be your guide. Your pastor might be your guide. Your teacher might be your guide, but is supporting, guiding, mentoring, coaching you to reach that destination. It might be a particular job, it might be a particular country, it might be a particular lifestyle, but it is, when you are accompanied on that journey, typically you will get there perhaps more intact than if you try to go it alone.
Absolutely. That having that North Star is so incredible because I mean that is essentially our soul. It's if our soul is within us, it's also without us. And that to me, that North Star is that essence of the pull of our soul that's saying, don't stop. Don't take your eyes off that higher purpose, that higher reason. And that can help us. They say that a good why can overcome any how. And I think that's powerful with a North Star because there's so many obstacles in life and there always will be. That's what life is on the physical plane. You're going to have challenges. That's how we grow and evolve. But if you keep your eyes on the prize, if you keep your eye on that North Star, it doesn't matter. You're going to say, this is for the higher good. This is bigger than me. So I'm going to keep for it. Harriet's inspiration, your inspiration, all of these things. And again, like you said, it's like when we all kind of have a similar North Star, it's going to be very powerful. And it already is happening because then we're all moving together in this general direction that again is for the highest good.
It's like those geese.
Yeah. The beautiful geese. I have a ton of geese. We have Canadian geese that are always flying around. They fly in this beautiful arrow together. This V. Love it. Well, Harriet, this has been such a beautiful and inspiring conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And it's just been a great time. And I would love for you to share how people can find you if they'd like to learn more about you. And you also are offering generously a free gift.
Yes. The gift is called 5 Essential Tools to Lead the Revolution Toward Love, Light, and Liberation, a spiritual guide for change makers. This is the cover of it. And people can get it, Harriet at the Right Resort, and we'll put some information for people to get it. But the 5 essential tools, what it is about our journey toward love, light, and liberation. So it has information about self-care, about soul care. And soul care is, again, being clear about who we be, what we're here to do. Also, about sacred ritual and, working with altars in terms of sacred ritual. And it also has a section on person-centered expressive arts. And we all do. Person-centered expressive arts is a kind of therapeutic approach where we use drama, we might use painting, in other words, when we come to someone with an issue, the answer is within us. It is up to that guide or that therapist or that coach to help you arrive at that answer. And I remember when I was in the program, studying this and it was a 2-year program. We would meet 3 times a year, and we engaged in a lot of arts. And I always thought that finger painting was so messy. But the last time I put on this jacket and I got into this finger painting, and I'm just, oh my goodness, this is so luscious. This is so I really, why myself so long? And the point is, working with people in the creative arts is one way of healing. It is one way of contributing to social change. And so this guide focuses on you, but it also focuses on you in relationship to your work environment or to your community, asking questions that hopefully help you arrive at a destination. And we will put how it can be received, a link to how we can receive it. But I'm Harriet at the Wright Resorts, and the Wright Resort, THEWRIGHT.com, is the website. But we'll put specific information on how you can get your spiritual guide. It has been my joy to engage with you in this conversation, and it's been fun.
It's been very fun.
Value fun.
Yes, fun is so important. Fun, joy, laughter, humor. Thanks for bringing it. Thanks for making us laugh. Thanks, along with wisdom. Laughter and wisdom are two beautiful, it's a beautiful pairing. So thank you so much, Harriet. And all of your links will be in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you for your free gift. I can't wait to check it out. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure, my joy, and so much fun.